Today we're going to talk to you about how to get more from your garden without necessarily doing any more work. You know, there's just some little bits of advice. It's simple to do, but like my videos should be brief. I started with asparagus. The thing with asparagus is most people will plant it and you're not going to get asparagus for a couple of years. So there's a tendency to ignore it, and it's really, really important to keep it weeded the first year especially. Keep it weeded, keep it watered. Pretend like there's something actually growing in there, because it is. It's just growing below ground where you can't see it. The second vegetable I'd like to talk about is beans. We're going to talk about fresh beans and dry beans. With beans, the easiest thing to do to get more with fresh beans is to just pick them. The more you pick, it threatens the plant. The plant wants to reproduce. That's their main goal in life. So they're going to start producing more flowers. And since beans self-pollinate as the flower opens, you're going to increase the harvest just by picking them. So that's pretty much it with beans. With beans, the more you pick, the more you get. Beets is next. The main way to get more beets is to plant more beets. Sounds a little ridiculous, but beets only take up a couple inches of space, so you really can tuck them in places in between other plants as the other plants are growing, and chances are you'll have harvested them before they're in the way. And since beets are related to Swiss chard, the tops of beets are also edible, so don't cut the tops off and toss them in your compost barrel. Make a salad out of them, where you can cook them like spinach. I absolutely love beets. There's all different colors, different sizes, and they are super fast growing. Broccoli, and like a lot of the other cruciferous vegetables, there's a couple things you can do. First of all, broccoli can be planted early, and it can be planted again later in the season, so you get two chances to grow broccoli. It prefers cooler temperatures. In fact, if it gets too warm, it will bolt. What you're going to harvest is actually the flower. So if that starts flowering or bolting, it's pretty much over with for the broccoli. With broccoli, when you cut off the main head, you will often find little shoots coming up, smaller broccolis that are perfectly edible, and the leaves are edible also. Cauliflower is the same thing, so I won't go into more detail with cauliflower. And cabbage is pretty much the same thing too. Cabbage, you don't want to get too big. You can get more, I think, by planting smaller varieties, because you can stick them in places where there might not be room for a larger cabbage, and so you can get more that way. But again, when you cut the head of a cabbage off, you should see little smaller cabbages coming. And if you have a couple coming at once, then that'll be enough for another meal. Brussels sprouts. Brussels sprouts is another cool, loving vegetable. The difference is it takes about 120 days to grow Brussels sprouts. They can be harvested well into the winter. I have seen people harvesting Brussels sprouts when the ground was completely snow covered. Of course, here it could be October, but this, I believe it was February. So what you're going to want to do as the plant grows and as you start to see little Brussels sprouts, start trimming the lower leaves. That gives more energy for the plant to put into growing bigger Brussels sprouts. Those lower leaves are going to die off anyway. That's usually what happens, is leaves die starting from the bottom and working their way up. Always keep some on top, because it still needs to do the photosynthesis, and it needs leaves to get nutrients from the rain, etc., which doesn't from the bottom of the ground. But that's the best way to encourage it. Let them grow. You can pick them as you need them if you want. If you think they're getting too big, certainly if they start to look like they're going to open up, pick them, eat them, freeze them. So that's how to get more from your Brussels sprouts. Give them enough time to mature after the fall, into where you're starting to get frost and even freezes. They can handle it. They're strong little buggers. Yeah, with carrots, I have at least one video on carrots specifically. The best way to get more from your time is to let the carrots get big. Give them enough time, give them enough space, keep their soil looser. You can cut it with sand, maybe some sphagnum moss is good to hold in some moisture, and just a nice fluffy soil. If a carrot has to, if it hits a rock or whatever, it'll go on an angle, which is still edible. You've probably seen carrots twisted around themselves. If you want nice long straight carrots or bigger carrots, give them some room. Yeah. A little elbow room helps when it comes to carrots, and they'll be good. Carrots, again, can handle the frost. I have been known in my younger years to come outside with an ice pick to get a carrot out of the garden after the garden had frozen, but that's a little desperate. I love fresh carrots though, so it was worth it, but let them go well up until the time the ground freezes and you're going to have to stop. I did just do a video on possibility of having carrots regrow themselves, which is nature, that's what would happen, and I will keep you up to date on that experiment, and also link that video below so you could maybe try an experiment in your garden. I think you would have to pretty much be zone 5 or warmer, unless you used a cloche or some kind of protection like that. That would also work.